Okay.
I welcome everyone to our first budget meeting, year of 2023. Michael, you want to lead us off here?
All right, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Okay, we're going to start with our regular packet and go over some of our regular documents that we go over. The first one that you'll see is the sales tax, our sales tax comparison. We have received our deposit for December. Our deposit was $351,754.16, which was $37,000 more than it was in 2021. So we're going to finish the year with $3.2 million in tax versus $2.9 million of last year. So we're going to have that's about $230,000 more than we collected in 2021. Overall, it's a 7.72% increase in the taxes. So we had a real strong deposit there for December.
Just glancing at it, Michael, isn't that the highest amount of sales tax we've taken in?
Yes,
Okay.
that's our largest year that we've had so far.
Wow.
And the money that, and you can keep in mind, once again, the money that we get for December is for October. It's for October sales. They send it in November. The state then sends it to us in December. So that would have been for October sales.
Wow.
So yeah, we had a really good year in sales tax. The next page is our fiscal budget, which is through November 30th of 2022. At that point, we would be at 91.51% of our budget. If you see, this is a summary for the kind of the new guys. This is a summary of the next 19 pages. I summarize it on this sheet so that you can just kind of see a large overview of it. And then if there's any questions, we can get down into the detail, which is behind it. But you'll see if you go down to the bottom line, our total revenues, we had budgeted for 12.6 through 12.637. Through the end of November, we were at 12.688. So we're already over budget for revenue. And then our expenses, we had budgeted 11.8. We're at 11.5. So that's where our expenses are at. Revenue versus expenses, right now we're at $1,160,042.06 in the positive for the year.
Historically, is that good, Michael?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's good. At this point, let me see what we were last year at this point. Last year we were about at the same. We were at 1.4 million last year. We're at 1.1 million this year. So we're a little bit behind where we were at last year, revenue versus expenses.
Okay.
But still, it's strong.
Good.
We're still strong. A couple of the things, just to kind of explain some of the red. The way some of this works is we have revenue coming in, we have expenses going out. Sometimes the revenue is more than the expenses, which is not good, but we have reserve funds in those accounts that cover those negative amounts. So like when you look at the street fund, even though we've spent a little bit more than we've taken in the street fund, we do have plenty of money to cover that within our street fund, and we'll see that in a minute on our balances. The Fireman's Pension Fund, that has to do with some dividends that will be posted. So once we post our dividends in December, then that number will come down and it'll be more of a wash on that account. So does anybody have any questions on that part of it? If you will look on the first page of the next page after that, the very first page of the revenue and expenditure report, I did want to show you one change that we've made is it used to say the amended budget, year-to-date balance, and then year-to-date previous year, and then the activity and stuff for this year. I felt like that was a little bit confusing because it's kind of thrown in there in the middle, but I still wanted to show that, so we moved that column to the end. So the first three columns are all information from the first four are all information from 2022. The last column is information from 2021 if you want a comparative effect. But it makes it a little bit cleaner. So.
One question, Michael, and it may or may not be answerable on the property taxes, 4010. And we had projected 330, we collected 313. Well, let's see, I don't know, I can't remember if the assessments went up for this last year, they're going up for next year, aren't they?
Yeah.
I believe they went up, but we'll see the net effect of it next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
We weren't
next
going to see it this year, we were going to see it next year.
Yeah, it's, I mean, that's pretty close. It's less than 10% off.
Okay. If y'all don't have any questions on that, we'll move on to the next report, which is your comparative bank balances, year and month end. We did a little bit of work to this spreadsheet because it was a little bit out of date. So Tabby, our new person in accounting, she worked on it quite a bit, and then I worked on it some. And it went all the way back to 16. We kind of hid some of those columns just so that it would make it kind of bigger and able to read. But this will show you, the first column is what our balances were in our accounts on the year end of December 21st. I'm sorry, in December of 2021. And then you'll see the next column, we start with our monthly month-end balances for January, February, March, April, May, and it goes all the way through the end of November, since that's the figures that we're talking about. We did some of these, if you kind of look from October to November, you'll see some of them have a pretty large balance jump. That's because we consolidated some of the street money into a centralized street fund, some of the general fund money into a centralized general fund, because we had accounts sitting out there that had been dormant for 10 and 15 years with no activity on it, and it's just a accounting nightmare to keep up with those, so we kind of consolidated some of those to make it cleaner and not have so many of these accounts. Each one of the accounts that you see under account name is an actual bank account of ours. So each one of those do represent an account. And then in the green, those are some of our savings accounts that we have, where we have our CDs, our various CDs that we have. So ending the month of November, our flush cash that we had on hand was $6.4 million. And then with our CDs, $7.2 million.
So you've consolidated some accounts.
Yeah. Some of those accounts, we talked about them last time.
Yeah.
There was a street certificate account, kind of led you to believe that maybe it was a certificate of deposit. It wasn't. It was just a regular checking account. So we did not mix any money. So if it was street money, it's staying in street. If it was general fund, it stays in general fund. We just had a lot of extra accounts that we just didn't need. But we kept everything in line, so there's no mixing of funds. There's no, we kept everything where the money was supposed to be.
We're still legal.
Yep.
Yeah. I assume.
The next page is what I'm interested in.
All righty. let's get to Terry's page. Okay, this is our long-term liability. We have paid off our water and sewer 2008 revenue bond. I got the receipt from them this past week showing that it's paid off. And all we have left is our sales and use tax bond. Our next payment that we will make on it will be an interest-only payment, which will be due in April 1st of 2023. It'll be $10,582.10.
And we're projected to pay that off by 27, isn't that correct?
Yes, 10/1 of '27. That's if we stay on our normal payment schedule. You know, on the other one, we did an accelerated payment schedule and paid it off a little bit early. This one is, right now, it's just on a normal payment scale. It's not on any type of accelerated payment. But yes, our payoff date is 10/1/2027.
And there's nothing that says we can't make a lump sum payment at any particular time, is there? Is there a penalty for doing that? Or-
No, there's not any penalties from it. I'd have to go back and look at all of the conditions on it. We just have to give them quite a bit of notification prior to doing it, just because of the way the bonds are structured.
I see.
But yeah, we can make additional payments on them.
All right.
Very good.
And that's all the current fun stuff. Does anybody have any questions on any of that we went over? The next thing is the budget. We presented that in December to you. This is a kind of a new copy of it, but there's been very little change to it. It might be kind of hard to see in here in the lights, but if you go to page 2 of 22, you look about 3/4 of the way down, general ledger number 01004910, insurance proceeds, kind of see that's got a little bit of a yellow on it. That means that's a change. And there's only about 4 or 5 those in here. None of them are really great. This is what this one has is we don't really budget insurance proceeds that we know we're going to get insurance proceeds in, because we don't really know. But we did have an accident at the fire department, and so they had to get the door fixed, and so that's the expenditure of what it cost us, and then we're expecting to get that back in insurance. It's been filed in insurance, but it's an expense, so we're showing the revenue coming back in the insurance proceeds. The only thing that is a large change on this is in the street department. We had budgeted in 2022 of purchasing the new plow that we brought before council, and the hope was it was going to be ready and purchased in 2022. It wasn't. It's not going to be ready until early 2023, so we moved that line item from 2022 into the 2023 budget.
But it's
which-
coming.
Yeah, it's
That's
coming.
amazing.
Yeah, it's being built right now, and
Okay.
it's coming. But we just had to move it over to the new budget because we haven't paid for it yet.
Another thing, I asked the mayor, and he said, Jess, that you had inserted in here, I believe, probably 7,500 in that range for fireworks.
No, we have not done that yet. We did include money in here for holiday decorations, but we were waiting to, we were trying to figure out with parks if we were going to do this. That's a real easy fix. I can put it in here, but we had not put it in here as of yet because we were just trying to see what we were going to do.
CAPC has agreed to put in 7,500.
Right.
And I know Parks is online to do the fireworks, and felt that Marble Flats would be available to them, no problem.
Okay.
But we didn't talk money specifically to them, so
Well,
We
I
got-
just, I thought the city would pony it up anyway.
Yeah.
That's
We've
up
got
to
the money
y'all.
for it, and I thought we had budgeted, but Michael said, we have it planned, we just don't have it in there, so
Yeah,
we've got
okay.
it. We're kind of waiting to see what Parks does, because Parks end up, I think not last year, but the year before, they were in conjunction with the CAPC in funding it.
They were.
Yeah.
Well,
So whatever the balance is, we'll be able to make it up.
so we're not going to worry about it as a budget entry?
Not right now. We'll pick it up as needed.
Well, and
Okay.
one thing we can do is like under, on page 3 of 2022, or I'm sorry, on page 3 of 22, if you look just right there at the top, 01005606 is holiday decorations. We've got $15,000 in there. We can add it to, and just take out the decorations part and just put holiday there, and add it to that if we need to, or if y'all want to wait, we can do it mid-year.
Well, I mean, it needs to be in there before mid-year because it'll be spent, in July.
Okay.
Well,
But,
Fourth of July is a holiday, and I guess you could call fireworks the decoration.
well, I would think so.
Yeah,
But I just don't want it to get
lost.
missed.
Lost.
And
No, we
so
got,
they can plan for it early enough and the word gets out and
we talked about it at department heads last meeting, and we'll bring it up again this time.
it's in your hands now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Terry, what did you say the CAPC approved, 7,500?
7,500, yeah.
Okay.
I see there's a big jump in the capital projects fund, 2.3 million. What's,
If you look, that's, for the rest of y'all, that's going to be in Fund 50, which is going to be on
Yeah.
page 13. The capital project funds that you will see under the expenditures is the $250,000 for the roundabout, the money for the Public Works Chemical Storage Building, and the Black Bass Stabilization Project.
Let's see.
And on the Black Bass, we bring that in as an expenditure of 750, but we've also brought in the revenue from the grant up in the revenue section of our income.
That little building is going to be $1.3 million? Chemical storage building?
That's counting all the piping, the storage, the building itself. I forgot what the building itself was, Terry.
I think it was
And,
9.
Right now, we're just looking to see if it's still economically viable, because what Dwayne had forecasted and what we're looking at ends up being two different things right now. So we may not even do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, because we weren't even talking anything close to
No,
anything
we were
like
looking at
that.
300,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we could pay it off in 5 years. So, but if we got to do anything over 5 years, even 10 years, I don't think it's worth it.
so we just need to leave it in place for now, but
Yeah,
this group will make a decision on whether.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And I'll bring it to the council. If we decide to scrap it, I'll bring it back to the council and make sure that the council's
yeah,
aware of it and agrees.
okay, all right.
well, if you
But we're
decide to
looking-
go ahead with it, let us know.
We're looking
Yeah,
at it
it's
right
our-
now.
Our decision.
Oh, well, we will, before we do anything.
We've had a lot of problems getting prices on the chemicals to see exactly how much we would be saving if we bought it, if we built it. So we've actually just got some more pricing today. So he sent us over some pricing on the totes and stuff today. So we're going to calculate that out and see exactly how long it would take us to pay for it. And if it's going to be too long, then we'll have to look at something else.
Can you, Mr. Mayor, give the new people a briefing on exactly what you're talking about stabilization project for Black Bass? Just,
Black,
50 words.
well, both of them, probably the chemical storage too. We spend almost $90,000 on chemicals to treat our water at the water treatment plant. The theory was if we can buy that in bulk, because right now we just buy it on a monthly basis. If we can buy it in bulk and store it, then we could be saving theoretically enough money that would pay for the building within a 5-year period of time because of the shipping and the cost of the materials and everything else. Of course, that was all pre-COVID. Everything's gone up, and right now we're not sure what's going to happen with that. Black Bass Dam, I don't know if you've been out there. David, have you been out to see Black Bass? We've been working on that for, Terry, what, 15, 20 years now?
Probably.
And it's, every year it's just keeping getting worse. We've got a $300,000 FEMA grant to help us pay for part of that. We got some COVID money that will also help go towards that. And so right now, we've got the engineers looking at some different design scenarios to repair that. What we're looking at right now is coming back with a step reinforcement to keep if that dam overflows, the dam will come down. So what we're looking at, in theory, is putting enough weight against that dam to keep it from overflowing and failing. The design right now keeps, I want to say, the top 10 feet as it looks. The bottom, rest of the dam goes down into a step, kind of a step ziggurat made with stone that's going up. We won't be replacing it exactly as it is with all stone because that cost is pretty strong.
I thought we already spent 90,000 on stone.
We have, but a lot of that was just for the base and a lot of the stonework that we're going to need. It's all going to be out of stone, but it's not going to be for all of it for facing the entire thing. So we've already spent, like Terry said, 90,000 to buy the stone. We got part of that down. So now we're waiting to get the final bids on this last design, and I talked to Nabholz on that. And there's a few items we're waiting on, and then we'll bring that to council for a final presentation and approval on seeing how the council wants to do with that. But this is something that it's pretty drastic. If it fails, and I don't say if, when it fails, we have the water pump station for Carol Boone right at the base of that. And that will basically wipe out that pump station. When that gets wiped out, that will mean we won't have any water for anything to the west going toward the Crescent Hotel or going out toward Miles Mountain until that gets repaired. So there will be no drinking water, no fire protection, no water at all. So it's pretty critical that we maintain and do something about that. That's the importance of it. So that's kind of the short summary of the importance of black bass that we've been looking at. And we haven't ever found the money up until recently to do anything about it. So anyway, y'all have any questions on that?
What percentage of the water sewer budget is the chemicals?
Well, it's not a lot. I mean, when you look at the water sewer budget, the water sewer budget is pretty good. But the chemicals, again, I don't remember, Michael, do you remember the total cost?
I honestly don't, and I don't have that information.
I want to say it was around $90,000 to $100,000 a year in purchasing chemicals to treat the water.
There's a
Treat
lot
the sewer.
involved in it as far as like
It's not treating the drinking water, this is the sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In buying them, they come in totes, what they call totes, and they deliver them in those, and so then they use them, then we have to clean them, we have to get rid of them, and there's a lot of processing that's involved in that on our end, and then, so with the chemical storage building, with the big tanks, they could bring a tanker over here, and instead of getting us 1 month supply, it was a little over a 90-day supply. So we would have a little over only have 3 or 4 deliveries a year instead of having a monthly delivery that only they only get once a month. And that was a lot of the cost savings, and plus the chemicals were cheaper if you bought them in bulk versus buying them.
Right, but it sounds like the difference isn't as big as it used to be.
Beg your pardon?
It sounds like the difference between bulk and the totes
the
isn't
savings
what
is
it used to be, or what
It's not.
Dwayne had guessed.
We'll just
True.
go over it when you get it.
Beg your
The
pardon?
cost,
We'll go over it when you get it.
Yes, absolutely,
When you know what it is, you'll let us know.
All right.
yeah.
What's going on with the public restrooms? Are we renovated or,
Where are you, Autumn?
let's see here.
page
page
are you on?
2 of 19.
Well, you're in the, back
Yeah,
in that budget.
Yeah, the budget.
You're back in this
Sorry,
dip.
I'm
But
back in the
You're back
budget.
on the budget.
Yeah, I'm back on the budget.
What, page 2 of
Did we-
19?
2 of 19. I thought we had on the agenda to revamp those, and is that out of here,
No.
or is this still to come out of here?
It's still, that has been, it's, if you look under it, you'll go down to, it's 01005739, public restroom repair and restoration. We have $65,000 set aside for it. As of yet, and I did check this today because I kind of wanted to look into that. We've not received, Nabholz is doing some of the repairs right now, but we have not, they have not invoiced us on any. So that's why it's showing 0 on there.
But they have begun.
They have begun,
Yeah,
yes.
I know
They've
been
ordered
working.
the material. We had the fiberglass doors at large
I
back
think
order
you
on it.
told me that,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I do have one question for you. Going back to this packet, on page 2 of 22,
Which page again?
2 of 22, account 4125, reimbursement to the CAPC for $315,000.
That's reimbursement from. That is for, when you get into your 4,000s, those are revenue, that's revenue coming in. That is the money that where we spent money, the city fronted the money for the renovations on the auditorium, and that's the portion that the CAPC is going to be paying back to
So
the
this
city.
is what they owe the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there's been some discussion, and I went ahead and put it in there as a bulk amount, which we can change that if we need to, but there's been some talk of whether they're going to pay us a yearly payment or whether they're going to pay us the full amount.
That's what they have in their budget is yearly payments.
Yeah. So that's,
And
Yeah.
and isn't that 45,000?
Yeah, 45 or 50,000.
Okay.
I think it's a 5-year payout. They, in the agreement, they, the original auditorium renovations were done. Then they had some change orders. The agreement was that in the original restoration renovations, the CAPC would pay for 75% of it, and the city would pay for 25% of it. Any change orders, they were based upon who requested the change order. If the city requested them, then we had to pay 100%. If CAPC requested them, they had to pay 100%. So we have a couple of change orders in there. So the agreement is that once they decide if they're going to pay the monthly payment, then they're going to pay us 100% of the change orders, and they're going to pay us our first monthly payment. And then once that starts, then they'll be on an annual payment for the remainder of the balance, which is about, I think it's about $50,000 a year.
I think it's important that we keep in the back of our minds that, sometime in the near future, Parks is going to have the engineer's report on the Basin Park. And that is going to take some attention, especially the band shell. And I've tried to get the CAPC to go ahead and pony up $250 toward the restoration of the band shell, which I figured that in itself, it might cover that. It may not be as bad as we think it is. I mean, they're going to have to get out there and dig it out. There's a lot to it, but
It may not
but
be.
anyway, they didn't approve it yet. I'm hoping that they will. There was Autumn was for it, and there was some other, but they did not approve it. And, but the city as a whole is going to be looking at that. So we got to be careful that we don't blow everything we got, because that's going to be some critical, in need of critical funding at some point in the
Well, I agree with you.
relatively near future.
I agree with you, Terry. The CAPC, I feel, should and can afford to do that,
Well,
and we
it's-
use that.
It's only because they're sitting on this glob of money that they don't want to spend on advertising.
Right.
They want to, be benevolent with it. Well, I couldn't convince them otherwise, so if they are, I think that's a perfect project to spend it on.
Well, absolutely, because we do use it for promotions.
So
Ms. Autumn, I want to point out one thing to you. On the budget, on page 3 of 22, about 3/4 of the way down, you'll see 5800 capital expenditures, public restrooms. Since we didn't pay for any of that in 2022, we had budgeted it in 2022, but it didn't get done. I did move it for 2023, so we do have it funded for 2023.
Very good.
So even though we started it in 2022, we haven't had any money for it. So since you had a question
Okay.
about that, I want to let you know that we did pull that forward, so.
Thank you.
5,800.
No real surprises, huh?
No, I do and I am cautious about, I think we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to the water department throughout 2023, just because we're experiencing another rate increase from Carol Boone. This will be the second one that we've had. We've not increased our rates any, and so I really want to keep a close eye on that, so that we don't get into where we're funding the water department.
I have some thoughts on that, and that is, I think, until we get the water department straightened out with the billing, the meters and all of that, I think, until we get that level, I hate to go to the city with any kind of an increase.
We do have
I
some
mean,
good
we've
news.
got problems now that people are squealing about.
Yeah, we do have some good news on the meters. We had a conference call, was it last week, Mayor? We had a conference call with the gentleman who we're getting the meters from, and he is feeling like that we've got a portion of them, but we haven't got all of them. He's really feeling like that we're going to have them by February. And we are, as part of the package, we are paying their company to install them so that we can get them installed as fast as possible. He said it would take about 2 weeks for their team to install them.
That's
So
tremendous. So
if he can, we've been
Maybe
really.
March 1st, April, we'll be up to speed.
Yes,
That'd be
exactly.
great, and I
So
hope so.
we've already, we've got Linda up there now. We've already had the company come in that produces these, and they've done the computer training with the ladies up there to show them how the computer aspect of it's going to work. So we're trying to stay very proactive on that and stay ahead of it. So we'll hopefully have those in. It was February, wasn't it, when he said February we'd have them and he could install them in March? Yeah.
Great,
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Good news.
And I think that'll make a huge difference, because that's part of the problem is, it kind of rolls downhill. When we don't get all the meters read in time, then that cuts down on the ladies' time that they have to prepare the bill and really review them and make sure for any mistakes or whatever. And then they're pressured, and then they need to get them out, and then mistakes are made. So that will really trim down that window of how long it'll take to read the meters. And then once they do that, then that will give them more time to evaluate those bills and look at those bills before they go out to make sure there's not any errors on them. So I think that's going to be a crucial thing for us in really fixing that billing situation.
Well, it should ensure that I don't get my neighbor's bill if it's computerized.
Hopefully.
That would be good.
And if y'all don't have any other questions, that's about what I have. We do, one other thing that I do want to point out, if you look under the capital expenditures, which is going to be actually on page 11 of 2020, of the 22 pages, we do have, under our fire and EMS, we have $215,000 in there. That's for a new ambulance box. Or not a new ambulance box, but the truck, and then it being installed on the box, or on the chassis.
Well, we use the same,
Box,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's going to be roughly around $170,000, $180,000. And then on the capital expenditures, radios and equipment, what that is it's the back half of the radio upgrade. We paid for $75,000 of it this year. $75,000 of it we're paying in 2023. And then also they're wanting to get some new fire uniforms. Some of their uniforms are getting pretty bad, and then there's getting to be a safety issue with their.
are you talking about turnouts?
I'm not sure.
I
I'm
think
not
it
sure.
is turn out gear.
I'm not sure what they need.
Yeah.
But that's what that other money's going to be for in there.
Did you have difficulty separating out the fuel for the gas for Public Works and fire and
No.
police department,
Yeah.
travel?
Yeah. No, it's,
Because it's all in the police department's budget, so we don't know what the others are going to use.
well,
And that's a pretty aggressive increase over last year.
Yeah. I talked to the police chief once about getting the facility so, some buried tanks with, so they could get a transport load, and it would save a bunch of money. He was supposed to talk to Magnus about that. Butch, do you know if he talked to
I don't.
Magnus?
I'm looking at that right now to see.
And then we could have like a credit card machine there on the pump instead of jotting down how much gas you got on a piece of paper
I
and
think,
handing it
Michael, they do that,
to the
don't they?
dispatcher.
I'm not really sure of how they do. I mean, I know we do fuel recon every month where we recon it out between the different departments and stuff. But I'm not actually sure how they dispense it and that.
It's little bits of paper,
Yeah.
you know, about this size.
Each vehicle doesn't have a log.
No, the vehicles don't have logs in them.
I looked into that once, Harry, and I don't remember exactly what the answer was. I'll find out.
Okay. It sounded like a pretty good idea, that perhaps there was a snag somewhere.
Well, better than 20% overall budget increases, it's big, I think, for, you know, for what we're expecting for revenues. But over last year's budget.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We got about 6 minutes yet, 5, 6 minutes before
Yeah, are we gonna approve this tonight?
we can, or we can wait until next week, next month, next
Why
next
wait?
meeting.
Let's move forward.
It's up to the council.
Okay. I mean, I'll probably bring it up, because it's
Okay,
on
we
the
have-
agenda to
we have it
discuss,
on our
right?
agenda, I
Yeah,
think,
so-
So, yeah. So, Yeah, under new business, we got discussion of the budget, so if you want to make a motion to approve, we can.
Well, I'd sure like to know a question about the fuel.
Harry, what is your question about the fuel?
Well, all the fuel is in the police department's budget.
No, it's in the, it is, like, if you look in fire has their maintenance fuel, it's
Sure.
5515. So it is expensed out to the different departments.
It is expensed out to fire, but it's not expensed out.
It's
to-
expensed out to transit too.
So how come there's $90,000 of fuel at the police department? They didn't use 15,000 last year.
Yeah, let me find it. Where is that, Harry? You recall?
The fuel for the police department was $60,000, is how much was in their maintenance from fuel.
60 on
01/12/5515.
What is it?
01/12/5515. It's on page 5 of 22.
Page 5, way far.
Last year, we also budgeted them $60,000. As of 11/30/2022, they were at $47,738.72. That month they had a net drop activity in that month because they had some credits that were put in there. They have $12,000 to finish out the year on. So we're not running it all through the police.
Yeah.
I was thinking we went ahead, we dispersed, I mean, each department
do.
gets,
We expense it out to them.
yeah.
The method that it's expensed is what's weird, because like I said, they're just little pieces of paper. And it's the dispatcher at the police department that keeps track of that, and it just looks like we could be leaking gasoline.
Well, it does seem odd that the police is 60,000 and this other one is 15,
You don't
That's a
run,
huge-
those vehicles don't run like,
right, like the police.
Your fire
department,
trucks and
yeah.
stuff are just going to run whenever they have
Yeah.
fires and everything, where the
Like
police is going to be
6 times?
Here, those
constantly going.
sirens all the
6 times
time.
more?
probably, yeah.
Well,
You've got
they-
a bigger fleet.
The fire department burns a lot of diesel, and that's more expensive.
Yeah, but they don't,
Terry, don't they have 10 or 12 cars in their fleet at the police department?
15.
15, okay. So they've got quite a few more cars than
15
than
divided
fire
by
does
60.
too.
But they're not rolling all the
they're,
time.
they're gonna open an Uber service.
Huh?
They're gonna open Uber service. Little extra income.
That's it. Need a ride home after drinking too much. Dial 911.
Is this Uber?
All right, any other questions? Got a couple of minutes left.
That's all for me.
I'm good.
Okay. We'll go ahead and adjourn from the finance budget meeting and pick up here in a few minutes on our normal, new city council meeting.